Minister Grigoryan, thank you for joining us up here. I'm curious how that question applies to you, how Armenia thinks about its balance of environmental sustainability and economic development.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me for this panel. It was a huge mistake for decades separating economic and environmental issues, and it was another big mistake looking for business as enemies, because for decades environmental solutions were taken by government, but looking businesses and other stakeholders as their enemies. But now we see that most of R&D is coming from private companies, and so many environmentally friendly solutions that we have now, it will be LED, it will be solar panels or others, that it's not only economically efficient but environmentally friendly. It's coming from business. So now it's not a privilege of governments to decide what kind of regulations and what kind of limitations should be done, because huge money is spent by private companies. Of course, the first argument is economic efficiency, but it's bring also environmentally friendly solutions. So now it's time for all stakeholders. It will be government, it will be private sector, it will be, you know, the scientific institutions to work together, because this discussion for a long time, if you are going to develop economy, so you should forget about environmental issues, or if you are looking for environmental solutions, so you will get a poverty, and poverty is one of the main environmental problems, I believe. So it's time that all decisions should be harmonized. So if you have an economic decisions and you are not considering environment factors, anyway after some time, it will be 5, 10 or 50 years, definitely you will have a problem. And we have some local issues here that 10 years ago it was a very good solution economically, but now we're facing a problem of degradation of environment ecosystems, and it will cost more to solve these issues. Again, when we are only looking for an environmental solution without considering economic factors and social factors, then you have this primary impact on nations, you know, primary impact from the people, from the poverty, that it's destroying your ecosystems. So everything should be harmonized, and I believe that the best economic decisions based on environment solutions. At the same time, the best environment solutions is based on economic solutions. Yes, I would like to respond also in relation on government. Of course, we are talking about adaptation and mitigation costs, but if you have a change on precipitation, if you have a change on temperature, it will change your economy whole. It will change your agriculture. If it will change your energy sector, urban development. And if you will not create adaptation plans for every single sector, then after 5, 10 years, you will spend more. So what is the role of government to pioneering the sectors? What will be in 5, 10, 15 years? Because in Armenia, in this moment, we are already facing temperature in many, many areas. Globally, you will see that it's different. By our climate communication in 2030, we will have less than 9% less surface water. It will impact agriculture. It will impact energy. So we need to invest now on adaptation and mitigation to prevent, besides the environmental and climate issues, to prevent some extra cost that will come. So this is very important in the role of government. But for private companies, of course, to be green, to be more environmentally friendly, but I believe people from private companies, they have children, and the youth that is coming with more ambitious plans, they are asking do not use single-use plastic, They are asking to not pollute more, so you should follow them. You should follow. So the youth generation, the young people will change a lot. But it's again, I'm returning to my first point, it's not a separate actions by government or private company. Government should set the frame, but working with scientific institution, working with private sector, working with R&D to set proper regulations. But yeah, I mean, in the beginning we talked about what scientists are saying about climate change. Climate change is real.
Mr. Grigoryan, could you continue a bit and give us some examples of the things that Armenia is doing, or programs you mentioned before, something with the UN this fall?
Yes, Armenia, very active player on global climate negotiations and the processes. I would like to inform that we have a very ambitious plans on reforestation, because tree planting actually one of simple solutions of climate change, but how to do it technologically, what kind of tools to use, it's not such simple. We need some more knowledge, more experience, because there are a lot of problems to solve. But for last 1 year, we developed some kind of unique tool that it's harmonization of debt for nature swap with the commitments undertaken by Paris Agreement. And we presented it during the General Assembly, this UN General Assembly just 10 days ago. It was a pledge of Armenia. The idea that most of developing countries, they don't have enough money to do adaptation and mitigation costs, but at the same time they have a lot of foreign debt to serve. So if we will find a solution and we'll create a platform that will be some swapping between debt and between a commitment undertaken by developed countries, it will be beneficiary for both sides, because instead of paying in cash starting from 2020, this $100 billion that was proposed by Paris Agreement, so developed countries can switch it in 10 or 20 years. And it's good for developing countries to find money now, to act now, to start reforestation, to start other actions. So I believe it's a good platform not only for Armenia, because it may work tomorrow for Nigeria and Germany, for other countries. So it was presented to UN, it was presented to our partners, and we are in a process, believe it will be successful.
Thank you.
Just coming back for 4 or 5 years ago, it was a GF financing project in Armenia on efficient street lighting. And it was the time that was no any LED lighting actually in Armenia, and it was huge support by the GF program for co-financing of the change of the street lighting. And it was huge support that time, and by this program many streets in Yerevan and other cities was done change in LED lighting. Now in any project that it will be in the cities, you don't need this extra support, because costs become cheaper and everything is cheaper. I remember that 10 years ago when I was in Germany and I saw these wind turbines that was receiving huge subsidies from government at 9 cents, 10 cents per kilowatt. And at that time it was also a privilege of developed countries to subsidize and to support these renewable energies. But now we have a tendering in Armenia for solar panel for 55 megawatt, and the tariff is 4 cents. Just few days ago it was another tender in Uzbekistan, and company offered 2.5 cents per kilowatt in Uzbekistan. So price is going down and down, and in the point that it will be economically efficient, I believe then we will not need any extra support coming from international environmental funds or other institutions, but business will take the field, and then we'll start a huge reformation in the energy supply system. First of all, I would like to explain from biodiversity point of view how important is our country, because there are 35 biodiversity hotspots globally. Everyone knows about Madagascar or Amazon, but about Armenia and our ecosystem is not very well known. It's one of the biodiversity hotspots globally, and it's only two in Europe, one in Mediterranean, and second is our region. And we have a very unique places. We have a natural forest, we have a high concentration of biodiversity. So my role as Minister of Environment to assure that we will have a clean rivers, we'll have a lot of reforestation, we'll have a regulation on environment policy that will give us opportunity to live in a clean country, but not locally, because all these questions are not possible to solve locally. So it's a global effort, what we should do. So what I see in 1992 during the Rio conference, it was a speech of a young girl from Sweden, and it was a very famous speech, like Greta did in UN, but it was more argumented that. And she talked about the current environmental issues, and it was the first time for the Biodiversity Convention, Climate Convention, Desertification Convention. And we see in many areas of the world that during the last 20-25 years, a lot of problems was solved. You see in EU, you see in some other developed countries, you can see even in US, some cities what was in 70s, and now it's more cleaner and green. So I see that not only in Armenia, but globally, we will have a better environment situation. But for this, we need to work. And as I said from the beginning, it's not a separate work for government. It's an obligation for every citizen of this globe, not the country, but globe. So I see it very optimistic, and I believe that Earth will become greener, cleaner, if we will work hard.
Let's hope so. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for being such good sports up here and doing this. Thank you to the audience as well.